sanctuary. Welcome to the sanctuary. Welcome to the sanctuary. Tuesday's tea. Tuesday's tea.
Hey, Krista.
Tuesday's tea. Tuesday's tea. Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew? Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew? Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew?
Hey, Treasure and Grace.
What's in your brew? Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew? Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew? Tuesday's tea. Tuesday's tea. Tuesday's tea.
You know, we gotta rock for a little bit.
Welcome to the sanctuary.
Welcome everybody coming in.
Welcome to the sanctuary. Welcome to the sanctuary.
Listen to the sounds of jazz, the music beat.
Welcome to the sanctuary. Tuesday's tea.
To the smooth sounds and rhythm of Jazzy the music geek. That's how you gotta say it.
Tuesday's tea.
Now, I hate to abruptly stop that. I know everybody was enjoying it. But welcome everybody to episode 18 of our Tuesday's Tea. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I am Akila Assad Holland L. And I also have with me Ruminir Holland Bay, my wife. She is actually in the background. She's going to jump on in a little bit. We're going to talk to you guys today about staying ready with everything that's going on now, obviously, with the storms that hit in the southeast and those that are without power and that may be without power for long periods of time, even up until let's see what happened in Houston not too long ago, or in Texas a few months ago when they didn't have power as well. We want to talk to you guys about making sure that you're ready in the case of some form of disaster, and whatever that disaster may be. Obviously, in these specific times, you know, they talk about disasters and apocalypse and all these things happening in many different forms and different ways. And we're just going to talk to you guys about some things that you can do, like physically, some of the physical things that you can do. Obviously, I'm sure Ruth's going to come on and talk about maybe just really quick, as she already has been dealing with you guys and talking to you guys about staying spiritually ready and mentally fit as well. We'll talk through with you guys. I want to start today, before we get into some of that, with the message that I guess you guys would call downloads that I had a couple weeks ago that I shared with Rue and another one of our friends, Shalom, about the truly understanding practice makes perfect, essentially, and how that all ties into staying ready and being ready. You know, I was thinking that, you know, all of the things that they always say practice makes perfect, right? In order for you to become really good at something, you need to practice it and be ready. I also know that change, a lot of times, abrupt change and transitions and things like that, it's hard for people being able to adjust, making that adjustment, being able to still stay quote unquote comfortable, or being able to basically make it through different times or whatever in your life. And one of the ways you go about doing that a lot of times is having already gone through the experience, so to speak, right? So that you're already ready, you know how to handle it when it comes the next time. Now, a lot of these things that we are experiencing, we may not have ever gone through these before, right? So we may not have that prior experience, right, to going through some of these disasters and all of that. But there are some things that I believe that we can still do to where we can practice and make sure that when it does happen, we can still be mentally able to go through that disaster, right? Because a lot of times that's what happens. We get into these things, we get into these issues, and then whatever it is, where all of a sudden a lot of things have been taken away from us and we don't know how to deal with it. And so with, not having electric, not having water, not having, a lot of times people are just like, what am I supposed to do with myself, right? So, this idea of practice makes perfect, it should come with everything. It should come with, hey, I'm always on social media. What am I going to do if there's no electric, there's no internet, none of that? How do I handle that? Like, if all of a sudden, a lot of my routine or some of the things that I always do, I'm no longer able to do. Taking yourself away from a lot of those distractions and things like that. Like, I stopped watching a lot of sports. Probably, I think the last remaining sport I probably watch and may keep tabs on at this point, and do keep tabs on at this point, is basketball from time to time. Nowhere near where I used to be. I started to pull myself away from a lot of the things that I didn't feel were, one, important, and that were going to necessarily be there long term. Sports, all of these things, they all rely on electricity for the most part for you to be able to watch them, right? When the lights go out in the arena, they're not playing basketball anymore. Like, none of this stuff is happening, right? What are you going to do? Like, what are you prepared to do when that happens? Like, mentally, are you mentally able to deal with that situation when there is no electric, when there is no power, when there is no water? What are you going to do? So not only making sure that you're physically stocked with these things, with water, that you're physically stocked with maybe a generator or batteries or something else to provide that electricity. But hey guys, when that's out, there's not going to be any internet, right? You're not going to be thinking about internet. You're not going to be thinking about powering devices and all of that. So what else do you do? What else are you doing to enrich your life? How are you practicing to prepare for those types of events, right? Are you supplementing your time that you spend on social media with reading books and knowledge, or going into times of meditation or journaling or something else that just requires just you and your thoughts, you and maybe a piece of paper? If you like to write, are you stocking up on paper? If you like to read books, are you stocking up on books? Like, what is it that you do in your free time, right? What is it? And if you don't do anything in your free time, I would suggest you trying to find some things to do that don't rely on some of these modern conveniences that we've had for so long. Practice does in fact make perfect when it comes to that, because when it's no longer here, you'll be able to deal with those things. You'll be able to easily transition to this state of, basically not having, where you think you don't have, to being fulfilled because you already know or already have things that you're already doing. So that's basically it. I mean, that's the gist of that message. Staying ready is not just, like I said, we're going to talk about, a little list, and we can do this all day. I think we've done this multiple times, saying, hey, you know what, you guys, stock up on your water, make sure you get your generators. You got toilet tissue, like all of these things, and we can tell you where to go to get a lot of these things. You know, if you've been watching us for the past couple of years, you know that we had also had been stocking up for, you know, canned goods and seeds and all of these things, right? But what if it gets washed away in a flood? What if all of these things that you've been prepping will no longer be there? How will you be able to sustain that? Do you have that go bag, that book bag that has the seeds and the little things that you're going to need to be able to kind of get out on foot? Do you have the hiking boots? Do you have those sorts of things? Are you practicing hiking, right? Don't expect that something's going to happen and you're just all of a sudden going to be able to get up and just start hiking miles and miles and miles and miles. I mean, once you get past the physical toll, will your mind be able to handle it? That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Are you mentally preparing yourself to be able to do a lot of these things? Meaning you're going to have to get out and, you know what I mean, start doing some of these exercises. Start doing the walking, working your way up to, you know, if you don't walk at all, working your way up to walking multiple miles, trying to do light hikes, things like that. Making sure you can carry your bag if you have to go out on foot. These are all things that when I say practice makes perfect, you need to make sure that you're practicing. When we were in school, we used to do these drills all the time. What drills are you doing to prepare yourself, to prepare your family? What are you doing to make sure that, you know, when this happens to you, that you're not in a state of panic, that you're able to think clearly in your mind, think through the things, because you've already planned it out. You already know exactly what you're going to do. You know, you're not going to panic. You're going to say, okay, you know what, guys? Let's go. Let's move, right? Let's go do what we got to do. You got your bag. I got my bag. Let's go. We're out, right? Are you ready to do that? Are you prepared physically, mentally, emotionally to be able to handle these shifts that are happening right now? And if you're not, and you don't feel like you are, then I would suggest you start to get ready. I would suggest that you start to supplement your time with prepping to make sure that you're ready to handle anything, whatever it is. And that doesn't mean focusing on, you know, that doesn't mean focusing on bad things to happen or wishing for bad things. I'm not saying that at all, because I'm not even that person. But I am a person, I'm a Virgo, I plan. I am a person that will plan and that will make sure that I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a person that, I'm not trying to panic when the time comes. You know what I mean? In my job, a lot of times, like, we do disaster recovery planning, right? That's something that we actually do. We prepare in the case of a disaster. We make sure that we have our playbooks in order. We know exactly what we need to do in the case that there's a major disaster, right? We will be able to essentially continue running the business when there's a disaster. Will you and can you still run your life in the way that you need to in the case of a disaster? Are you prepared? And are you ready to be able to do that? And how are you doing that? Sweetie, do you want to come in and say a couple things before we, I guess, start just going down some of these lists and stuff like that?
Sure.
You guys, I am going to bring in, drum roll please, the wonderful, the beautiful Mrs. Ruminera Holland Bay. Everybody give her a round of applause, everybody. No.
Let me try not to shake the camera.
So
hello everybody. I'm so happy to see all of you guys in the room, and welcome to this week's episode of Tuesday's Tea. Mrs. Holland has already, asked all of that. If you guys are drinking on your brews, we're sipping on water over here at the sanctuary. But if there's something that you're sipping on that has been aiding you either in your mental health, your physical health, or your spiritual health, feel free to drop it in the comment section and tell us how your brew has been serving you, how it's been enriching your life, or how it's just been making you feel good. We don't care. We just want to know what you're drinking. I love everything so far. that Mrs. Helen said, and when we were talking a few weeks ago about that, the message of beginning to practice the way that you're going to be living, in case of a disaster happen. I think we talked so many years just about being in the mind frame of being prepared should anything be thrown our way that we weren't prepared for. And if we just make an assessment of how the world is moving and shifting and changing around us, and how every day there's something new, it would honestly really begin to behoove us to put ourselves and to put our families in the position of being comfortable, rather, right? Even though we're moving through uncomfortable times, there's still always an opportunity for us to create some sort of heaven around us, even if it's not being able to have access to the things that we used to have access, to, especially for those of us who are really choosing their side as it relates to your health. Many of us are being put into the position of choosing our bodies, choosing our health, choosing just ourselves over the pleasures of the self, right? And, that puts us in a season of choosing, and in a season of really assessing, like Mrs. Holland was saying, the things that we need and that are necessities, and things that were just pleasures, things that were just nice to have. And if we look at what's happening in New Orleans right now and in Louisiana, it makes me think, and it calls into question of how many people were really prepared for that type of disaster to happen, even if they had begun telling the people that there was a storm coming even weeks prior. 2 weeks or a week or 3 weeks is not really enough time to realistically prep and to get your family in the place, that should disaster hit, that you guys will be safe and okay. For a lot of people, their belongings were wiped away, so really figuring out how to put the pieces back into place, figuring out who's going to be your support systems, should disaster ever hit your homes, ensuring that you have some place to go if a situation or presents itself, that you have to completely remove yourself and your family from your homes, God forbid, but being in the age of Aquarius is also about unpredictability, and anything is liable to happen being in the season of Aquarius. Unexpected windfalls, unpredictable weather. We're experiencing flooding all over this planet, and in a way it's judgment. And in another way, it's cleansing, and it's making room for us to be able to do away what doesn't belong, in order for us to be brave enough to put the pieces back into place that we most desire to have. Not the pieces that the people around us desire us to have, or the people that are in power desire us to have. And so, I really push that message that Akila just gave of really beginning to practice, the lives that we desire to have. And that doesn't necessarily mean prepping for a disastrous life. It's just prepping and putting pieces into place, ensuring that you're setting up provision for yourself, that you're setting up provision for your family, that you're setting up provision for your friends, and that you're passing the word. Even if it doesn't seem like they're getting it today, even if it doesn't seem like they're getting it tomorrow, the only thing that we can do at this stage in the game is to begin to speak. And if man have an ear, he will be hearing what Spirit is saying to the churches, which is to get our affairs in order as it relates to our health, as it relates to our spiritual bodies, and as it relates to our homes. Really beginning to put and place the people and the things around us that we know that are going to push us forward to where we most desire to be. And so putting plans into place as it relates to survival prepping or disaster prepping is, I think, in my opinion, really essential right now. Last year, before we left Jersey to relocate here to Arizona, we did a more extensive video on just tools, whether it be tools that you can pick up from your Amazon or your Walmart or from your Target, picking up rice, stocking up on beans, be it cans of beans or be it dry beans, really stocking water. I truly believe that we're going to face some type of water crises in this on this plane of existence soon. And so it will really behoove us to stock water, and even if you don't stock water, to know how to purify and to clean water. There's a ton of filters that you guys can go out here and do research on that relates to cleansing and clearing the water. And if you don't want to buy something, then I encourage you guys to get on YouTube, and do your due diligence and researching more natural or more holistic methods of survival. Be it starting a fire, be it putting together rock and charcoal and to create a purifier in order to send your water through, ensuring that it's safe for you and your family to drink. And so, learning how to build holes in the ground in case the power go out and you find yourself in more colder environments. If you're in more warm temperatures, knowing how to build and how deep to go into the ground in order for you to reach the surface to a place that where it'll keep the things that maybe that comes out of the refrigerator cold until the power comes back on, right? And so there's so many ways in which we can prep and that we can get ourselves ready, should anything present itself, especially storm and weather related. Just, the same way that New Orleans, faced such drastic and disastrous weather. None of us are exempt. I don't care where you live. You understand what I'm saying? Anything at any moment can come, especially with these powers that be. And we know that they have the power to manipulate weather, and to orchestrate the storms that they most desire to see on this planet happen, mainly for the purposes of displacing the collective, displacing certain environments that they may want to build up. And so, we have to become wise, in this day and age, and we have to pull our heads out of the sand and really begin to assess where we are in order for us to keep ourselves safe, in order to keep our families and our friends safe. And so I just want to go through really quickly just a checklist and some takeaways that you guys can walk away with and to use as homework if you haven't started your prepping journey or getting a ready preparedness plan into place. I think that these few tips will at least give you guys some type of idea on where to start and how to start, and as to not overwhelm you, right? Don't make this experience scary. Make it fun, especially if you have children. Make it fun. Make each day you can take an activity a day, maybe building fires one day, maybe stocking wood or cutting wood another day. For those of you, I believe in, what is this, the Second Amendment, babe, with the guns? What are the amendments? Mm-hmm. The Second Amendment that tells you that you have the right to bear arms. I hope that y'all out here being smart. And I hope that y'all people that live in the hoods is not still turning in your guns. You have the Second Constitution Amendment right that is protecting your right to bear arms. And so if you are uncomfortable with the idea of bearing arms and ensuring that you have protection in your house, should anything happen, grow up. Spirit is growing us up. And they're charging us to different ways and different methods of protecting our family. If a stranger shows up, they know that you have survival goods should the world go to shit, and your neighbor knows that you've been prepping and stocking, and they show up at your door with a gun. What do you have to defend yourself? A toaster? You know what I'm saying? A knife? You're going to bring a knife to a gunfight? No, we're going to be realistic. We're going to be wise. We're going to use wisdom, and we're going to think ahead, okay? And we're going to use our resources, right? And as to not make your neighbors enemies, then start getting back into the realm of building community, so that should disaster ever hit us, in an unfortunate way, you don't become the enemy of your neighbor. That you build relationships with the people around you, so much so to the point that instead of becoming enemies during disasters, you band together, understanding that we're only as weak as the weakest person in our environment. You understand what I'm saying? And we don't have to be subjected to becoming the enemy of each other because somebody's household is without. You understand what I'm saying? And so we're going to go through these 10 tips really quickly. It comes from the Hillcrest Medical Center, and I love these tips, and they were almost kind of like the tips that we went through last year when we did our first survival prepping video. And they're really quickly, we're going to move through them as not to keep you guys really long. Hello to everybody coming in. I want to make sure that I'm reading your comments. Kanye West says that natural disaster periods forced me to panic years ago and to just prepare for anything. She says that's so true. And I'm so happy. And for many of us, unfortunately, many of us won't see the importance of prepping and of preparing until danger shows up on our doorstep. You know, many of us won't see the importance of putting an action plan in place, you know, the same way that you will put an action plan in place, the way that we did when we were training our children for fire drill. Right. And it was always suggested to the parents, especially if you had children, to always put in some type of action plan as it relates to make up your house catching on fire one day. What are the drills that you're going to take your family through? Right. And the drills don't have to be daunting, but they do have to be serious, and they do have to be put into place. Right. But you can make prepping fun. You can make survival prepping fun. You can find maybe organizations in your environment that are solely geared to survival prepping, and that are solely geared to teaching people how to set up shop in the wilderness. You know, should you have to retreat into the woods because your house burned on fire and maybe you being hunted. I don't know, y'all, but anything is possible in this day and age. So let's jump in. Okay, so the first one is to be mindful of the different kinds of disasters so that you can always be prepared. Psychology is a key factor for survival. So being mentally and emotionally prepared increases your odds for survival. So like Mrs. Holland was saying, prepping will completely eliminate the option of panic should disaster ever hit your home, because psychologically you've already prepared yourself, and we know that the all is mind. And so if you've been preparing your mind, and you've been creating divine thoughts, and you've been using your mental power in order to keep yourself and your family safe, you know, you put the pieces into place in order to eliminate elements of danger out of your environment, then you know that you've been mindful, and you know that you prepped yourself in every manner of disaster that could hit your home or that could hit your family. And so that alone will increase your chances of survival by getting your mental space, you know, under control should disaster never hit your home. Number 2 is try not to panic. You will likely experience fear during an emergency, but good planning with factual information from credible agencies will help you respond more effectively, right? So having community around you that you can trust, having proper resources and proper organizations that you know have been vetted, you know, people that you know I'm not talking about your CNN and your local news stations. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking yourself onto YouTube or finding more neutral journalistic websites that you know are for the people and have a heart after the people, and that their activism is first to the people and not to the corporation. Okay, so ensuring that the people that you're getting your information from are credible sources that you trust, not because the collective trusts them, but because your intuition tells you that the information that they're giving is something that is going to be useful for you in order to keep you out of danger, right? So fear is not a thing unless you allow it to be. Panic is not a thing if you have prepared for any and everything. Number 3, know your limits. Understanding any physical limitations, resources, and medical or dietary needs helps you to create a custom survival plan for you and your family. So like Akila said, if you know you're out of shape, if you know you're not used to exercising, if you know that you've been feeling that the heat, you know, and the way the sun has changed on this planet has really changed the temperature on this planet, and you're not used to being active, you know, as this planet heats up, and you're not used to your body being subjected to such heat, then you know that you need to spend more time outside in the sun. Start doing more activities in the sun. Akila had brought up hiking and things. When we moved out here to Arizona, there's a whole different alchemical process that happens in the body from transitioning from that side of the earth that we came to this side. You know, there's a whole genetic makeup change that's happening within our bodies, right? And so drinking water and adding a lot more water to our daily regimens proves to be, you know, the key factor to you surviving out here or to you losing your life out here because it's so hot. And so because we weren't used to getting out and like hiking or really being in this kind of temperature or this weather, when we went hiking one day, the hill wasn't even high. It was really actually quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Intermediate trail, right? So it should have been really easy to do. But by the time we got to the top, I was so winded and really felt like I was going to pass out. And just from that little climb, because I hadn't conditioned my body, because I hadn't taken enough water that day, because I hadn't prepared mentally for this hike that we were about to encounter, the hike defeated me, you know. And so by the end of the day, when we went to go sit down and eat, I passed out in a restaurant just from taking a sip of my drink, okay? Because I didn't prepare. Okay, my body. I didn't know my limits. I didn't understand that I had more limitations or was subjected to different limitations than I was when we were in Jersey or when we was in Philly, right? So the limitations changed because the environment changed. And so the way that we operated in the environment had to change, and the way that we prepared ourselves in order to operate in the environment changed, right? So know your limits, know your dietary needs. If you have ailments, begin tackling those elements, begin changing your diet, because diet is always going to be at the root of dis-ease. Okay. Number 4, act. Physically prepare and rehearse your plan, and don't be afraid to modify it as your needs change. So like Akila was saying earlier, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Once you get your action plan in place, once you get your family on board, there should be some type of weekly or bi-weekly rehearsal of the plan, so that once disaster or if disaster presents itself, we don't become discombobulated in the experience. We automatically know how to execute, right? And so prepare, rehearse your plan, go over it with your children, especially if you have small children. Go over it with your mate. Know and ensure that your mates are on board just as much as you are on board, because all it takes is one person to fuck up the whole thing, okay, y'all? So prepare. Number 5, learn how to do more with less. If a disaster causes your electricity or your gas to go out, you may need to know how to improvise with what you have on hand. Camping tents is a good example of learning how to survive. The essentials you guys can get: thermal heating, sleeping bags, water containers, knowing how to start fires, knowing how to cook food, dehydrate your food is another viable option because it sustains the shelf life. And a lot of times all you have to do is just add liquids and it'll bring everything back into full hydration, right? And so learn how to do and to work with less. Start taking away something every week, like Akila was saying. If you know you watch TV every single day, start watching TV 1 week on, 1 week off. If you know that you binge eat fast food all throughout the week, and that's how you get your needs met, then that means that you need to start cutting back. Maybe you don't eat out 7 days a week. Maybe you eat out 4 days a week. And in turn, that helps you to save money, and it also begins to train your body that you don't need to eat that much, because we don't need to eat that much, right? Number 6, keep it simple. Preparedness plans and survival gear should be practical for real life scenarios. The important thing is to test and to practice with what you plan to use. Okay, stocking and building a storehouse is wonderful and it's grand, but like Akila made the example, should a flood come and everything is washed away, do you have your bug out bag, is what they're mainly called when you go into these prepping communities. And your bug out bag consists of everything that you would need should disaster happen and you had to leave your home. So a camping tent, a sleeping bag, water, cans of food. If you have or on oxygen some way to, or you experience asthma or have some type of ailments with your breathing, ensuring that you have things that are going to help you to catch your breath and to sustain your breath. If you know that you have diabetes and ailments that require you to take medicine, start stocking your medicine. I don't know how strongly I can stress that. Stock your medicine cabinets. If you know that you deal with elements as this world is shifting, and ain't nobody talking about it, but America don't get the same supply and medicine, okay, that they got 5 years ago. When Puerto Rico was destroyed, a lot of America's medicine supply was destroyed because that's where a lot of their medical pills and how they keep y'all sick, but, make y'all think that they healing y'all or some stuff like that. Okay, so keep it simple. Number 7, be aware of your local threats, any local threats, both natural and man-made to your environment. Understand and find every safe route. If you know there's underground tunnels that you can go through that may be in your area, find them, map them out, know how long it takes to get there, know how long it takes to get back, know how big the space is and what you're able to take in there, right? When me and Akila got married, what was it, babe, 2 years ago? We were standing before the judge. A year and a half ago, we were standing before the judge, and he just randomly says to us, there's tunnels, or we have underground tunnels under our home. Right now, if we were still in Philadelphia or Jersey, a disaster was to hit, then we know that there's some underground tunnels that we could possibly find in New Jersey. Right, so if you know that there are safe spaces and safe areas for you to take your family should disaster hit, make sure that you know those trails and that you know those routes, that you know those caves, that you know those tunnels, okay? And practice getting to those places and how long it takes you to get to those places. Number 8, in the event that you are forced to leave your home, create a mobile emergency kit for you and your family. Keeping one at work is helpful in the event of a disaster scenario occurring while you're at work. So keep your first aid kits, one in your home, one in your car, one where you work, one at your mama house, one at your grandmama house, one at your daddy house, one at your cousin house. Keep your first aid kits, and then your first aid kits should be Highland Spices. Hello. They should be Highland Spices. We got your spiritual tools and we got your medicinal tools. Okay. So make sure that your first aid kits are put together and that you and everybody in your family knows how to use and to operate those first aid kits. Okay. Number 9, do the WISE. WISE is the acronym for Working to Innovate Safety Education. Once your family is prepared, share your plans with your coworkers and your neighbors. It's easier when everyone is on the same page. So like we said, if we get into the habit of reestablishing community, if we get into the habit of talking to our neighbors, of trusting our neighbors, right, of just going over and checking on our neighbors, this transition, should anything ever happen that displaces our community, it'll be much easier for you to operate in your community cohesively because you built relationships. So when you feel like you have a cohesive, effective plan in place that you've solidified with your family, share it with your coworkers, share with your neighbors, especially if you find that you have elderly neighbors that you live around, right? Start going to them and talking to them, especially if you know that they don't have a lot of family or friends that comes to visit them. Start checking on your neighbors and ensuring and talking to them that they have and helping them to get a plan in place should disaster happen, and they need to get out from where they are. Maybe they'll need to come and stay at your house for a few days. Are you ensured that you have enough supplies built up in your storehouse to be able to add an additional person if you had to add an additional person, right? So make sure that everybody is on the same page, be it family, friends, neighbors, or your coworkers. And number 10, revisit your plan often. As even if disaster don't hit for another 60 years, every year you should be rehearsing and going over this plan. Every 6 months you should be rehearsing and going over this plan, because the worst thing that we want to do is to get out of the mind frame and out of the action of preparing, right? And letting our guard down, thinking that the world is safe. The world is not as safe as we think it is. So number 10, revisit your plan. As your family and work situations change, make sure that your plan remains appropriate. Also, check your supplies such as batteries, medications, or food to make sure they are not expired. Okay, being prepared reduces stress and it makes life more easier to enjoy. Okay, so make sure that you're checking the expiration dates. If you guys are prepping and planning, know that whenever you're doing survival prepping and whenever you're building a storehouse, the only things that you should be stocking and storing are things, what is the word that I'm looking? Non-perishables. Thank you, Spirit. Everything that is non-perishable. So you guys can find a lot of those freeze-dried meals that you can get in bulk on Amazon or any number of survival prepping websites or websites that offer survival prepping tools. So anything that is non-perishable, get into the dirty work yourself and dehydrate your own foods. I feel like almost anything can be dehydrated, but make sure that you get out there and you do your own research. Make sure that you're checking your medication. Make sure that you're updating your survival plan with yourself every day. Make sure that you're checking on your mental health every day as you are putting your ready preparedness plans in place. Make sure that you're also putting a mental health checklist in place as well. Make sure that you're also putting in plans of self-care, because even when disaster happens, we always have to make sure that we have a way to manage our self-care so that we don't lose our minds, so that we don't lose ourselves. As we go through disaster, self-care is always going to be important. So as you put your plans in place for survival and for ready preparedness, make sure that you're putting plans in place in order to manage your mental health and to help the people around you to manage their mental health. And that you're also adding self-care tools and self-care rituals in place as well as you prepare and as you plan. And that is it for the list, babe. Is there anything else that you want to say, my love? I'll let you close because I always close. And so I know that y'all love seeing Akila hop on here, and I love seeing her as well. And we don't get to see her often, and so I'm really happy that you guys got a chance to see her. So I'll let her close
it out, babe.
Okay, she wants me to close it out. And so we want to thank you guys again for joining us for this week's episode of Tuesday's Tea, episode 18. Guys, we've been on a roll and we've been consistent, and I'm so proud of us. Okay, because a lot of times and a lot of weeks it's not easy, but we push through because we really believe in the content that we are creating and that we're making here at the sanctuary, and we love the feedback that we get from you guys every time we upload a video, and like always, we thank y'all for the constant support. We thank y'all for every share. We thank y'all for every buy, and we just thank y'all for always rocking out with us. And we want to shout out Jazz again for our theme song. We know that y'all love the theme song so much, and Tuesday's Tea truly wouldn't be what it is without Jazz. And we just thank y'all for always showing up and just being here with us. Y'all, also, two of our favorite people is getting married tomorrow. Okay, so y'all see Jazzy Music Geek, who is the writer and the composer of your favorite song, okay, and our favorite song, Tuesday's Tea, and her beautiful, beautiful white treasure. And I believe she's also in the comment section. Make sure y'all go over and wish them a congratulations as they are coming together in union officially tomorrow. And we are so elated for them, and we are so proud of the journey that they have been on and the progress that they have been making. And so we just thank y'all for joining us again on Tuesday's Tea for this week's episode of Stay Ready So You Don't Have to Get Ready. Y'all make sure that y'all meet us back at the sanctuary this Sunday for our ritual titled The Marriage of the Bridegroom. Is going to be such a phenomenal episode, and I have such a great ritual to give and to impart to you guys this week. So make sure y'all join us back here 6 p.m. MST Standard Time, and that is 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I look forward to seeing you guys. Anything you want to say, Mrs. Holland, before I close this out with the theme song?
No. Peace, y'all. Great job, love.
Y'all know Mrs. Holland is not a talker.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, I know she's not a talker. And so we thank y'all. We love y'all. If you find that you need any more questions or you need any more information about survival prepping, feel free to DM us. And there's a ton of videos that I can give you guys or a ton of resources that I can give to you guys as well that will make it make sense a little bit more, and that will also help you guys to continue to get your plan in place. And so we love y'all, and we thank y'all for joining us. And I'm closing us out here at the sanctuary this Tuesday.
One time.
One time for the one time. Peace
Tuesday's
out.
tea.
What's in your brew? 'Cause I didn't get my dance. Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew? Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew? Tuesday's tea. What's in your brew? Peace, y'all.